The stars look different out here, Captain Daniel Price thought as he stared through the observation window. They were sharper, colder, and more distant than anything visible from Earth. His ship, the Horizon's Edge, had been traveling through unexplored space for 3 months now. The mission was simple: map new systems, collect data, and return home. Nothing exciting, nothing dangerous, just routine exploration work. Daniel was a tall man with graying hair at his temples. He had commanded ships for 15 years, but this was his first deep space mission. His crew consisted of 20 people, all experienced and professional. They worked well together, like a family that had known each other for years. Lieutenant Amy Brooks sat at the communication station, her fingers moving across the controls with practiced ease. She was young, only 26, but brilliant at her job. Amy could pick up signals that other officers would miss completely. She wore her dark hair tied back in a practical ponytail and rarely smiled while working. The bridge was quiet that morning. Most of the crew was still sleeping or eating breakfast in the mess hall. Commander Jake Sullivan stood near the tactical station, reviewing the day's patrol route. He was a solid man with broad shoulders and a calm demeanor that made everyone feel safe. Jake had served in the military before joining the Exploration Corps, and it showed in everything he did. Amy suddenly sat up straight, her eyes fixed on her screen. Something had caught her attention. She adjusted the controls, filtering out background noise and interference. There it was again. A pattern. Weak, almost invisible, but definitely there. "Captain," she said quietly, "I'm picking up something strange." Daniel walked over to her station. "What kind of something?" "A signal. Very faint. It's repeating every 30 seconds. Amy's fingers danced across the keyboard, isolating the transmission. "It's old. Really old. The signal pattern suggests it's been broadcasting for weeks, maybe months." Jake joined them, leaning over to see the data. "Can you translate it?" Amy nodded slowly. "It's basic binary code. Simple on and off pulses." She paused, her face growing serious. "Sir, it says help in standard galactic basic." The bridge fell silent. A distress signal meant someone was in trouble. It also meant potential danger. Pirates, hostile aliens, or worse could be waiting. But it also meant someone needed them. Daniel made his decision quickly. "Plot a course to the signal source. Jake, get the boarding team ready. Amy, keep monitoring that signal for any changes." The Horizon's Edge changed direction, its engines humming as it accelerated toward the coordinates. The signal led them deeper into an uncharted system, past 2 dead planets and through an asteroid field. Finally, they found it. The alien ship hung in space like a broken toy. Its hull was dark, pitted with holes from weapons fire and meteor impacts. The design was unlike anything in their database. Smooth organic curves merged with what looked like crystal formations. It seemed almost alive, or it had been once. "No life signs," Jake reported from his station. "No power readings either. The ship is completely dead." Dr. Helen Carter arrived on the bridge, called from the medical bay. She was a middle-aged woman with kind eyes and steady hands. Helen had treated everything from broken bones to alien infections during her career. She studied the derelict ship on the main screen with professional interest. "Any idea what species built that?" she asked. Daniel shook his head. "Nothing in our records matches. It could be from beyond the explored regions." "Are we going over there?" Helen asked, already knowing the answer. "Someone sent that distress call," Daniel replied. "We have to check." An hour later, Jake led the boarding team across the dark space between ships. Daniel, Helen, and 2 security officers accompanied him. They wore full environment suits with built-in life support. The suits were bulky but necessary. They had no idea what atmosphere, if any, remained in the alien vessel. The airlock was damaged but still functional. Jake managed to override the manual controls, and the heavy door slid open with a grinding sound. The team entered carefully, their suit lights cutting through the darkness. The interior was freezing, well below zero. Ice crystals covered every surface, glittering in their flashlight beams. The corridors were wide and curved, designed for creatures larger than humans. Strange symbols covered the walls, possibly writing or decoration. They found the first body in what looked like a control room. The alien was huge, nearly 3 meters tall, with 4 arms and a face that combined feline and reptilian features. Its fur was matted with frozen blood. The creature had died fighting. That much was clear from the weapons clutched in its hands. More bodies lay throughout the ship. The crew had fought hard against whoever attacked them. Scorch marks and bullet holes decorated the walls. Jake counted at least 15 dead aliens as they made their way deeper into the vessel. "This was a massacre," one of the security officers whispered. They reached the cargo hold, a vast space at the ship's center. Containers were stacked along the walls, most of them empty or broken open. In the middle of the room stood a makeshift shelter, constructed from cargo netting and thermal blankets. Helen saw movement inside and rushed forward. "Wait," Jake called, but she was already there. 3 small creatures huddled together in the shelter's center. They were tiny, barely the size of house cats. Their bodies resembled tiger cubs from Earth, with striped fur and rounded faces. But these creatures had 6 legs instead of 4, and their stripes glowed faintly with bioluminescent light. The glow pulsed weakly, like dying embers. The cubs looked up at the humans with large, intelligent eyes. They were terrified and starving. Helen could see their ribs through their thin fur. One of them made a soft chirping sound, almost like a question. "Oh, you poor things," Helen whispered. She slowly removed one of her gloves and reached out carefully. The smallest cub, its stripes glowing a soft blue, sniffed her hand before pressing against it weakly. Daniel came up beside her. "Are they alive?" "Barely," Helen said. "They're hypothermic, dehydrated, and starving. Without immediate help, they'll die within hours." Jake scanned the area with his equipment. "These are the only life signs on the entire ship. Everyone else is dead." The cubs huddled closer together, seeking warmth and comfort. Their bioluminescent stripes pulsed in sync as if they were communicating silently. The largest one, with red-orange stripes, watched the humans carefully, protective of the others despite its own weakness. Daniel knelt down beside Helen. The cubs were clearly someone's children. The adults had died protecting them, had hidden them here and given them every chance to survive. Now that chance depended entirely on what happened next. "Can we save them?" he asked Helen. She studied the creatures carefully. "I don't know their biology, but the basics should be similar to Earth mammals. Heat, fluids, nutrition. It's possible, but it won't be easy." "Get them to the ship," Daniel ordered. "Jake, collect samples and data from this vessel. I want to know who these people were and what happened here." As Helen carefully gathered the cubs into an insulated container, Daniel looked around the cargo hold one last time. Someone had loved these little ones enough to die for them. Someone had hoped against all odds that help would come. That hope had led the horizon's edge here. Now Daniel had to decide what came next. The medical bay buzzed with activity as Helen worked to save the 3 cubs. She had placed them in a specially prepared isolation chamber where she could control temperature and atmosphere. The cubs lay together on a heated pad, their bioluminescent stripes barely visible now. Helen's assistant, a young man named Ben Harris, monitored their vital signs. The readouts were confusing because they had nothing to compare them against. Were these heart rates normal or dangerously slow? Was their body temperature too low or just right for their species? "Their core temperature is rising," Ben reported. "That's good, right?" "I hope so," Helen said, mixing a nutrient solution. "I'm basing this on mammalian biology from Earth. These cubs have fur, they're warm-blooded, and they nursed from their mothers based on what I can see. That means they need milk or something similar." She carefully inserted a feeding tube into the smallest cub's mouth. The little one with its blue glowing stripes was too weak to eat on its own. The nutrient solution flowed slowly, and Helen watched anxiously for any negative reaction. The cub swallowed. Its eyes fluttered open, focusing on Helen's face. The stripes pulsed a little brighter, just for a moment. Then it closed its eyes again, but its breathing seemed easier. "It's working," Ben said with relief. One by one, Helen fed all 3 cubs. The largest, with orange-red stripes, was strong enough to lap at a bowl of the mixture. The middle cub, glowing green, needed help but managed to swallow on its own. They were fighting to survive, these tiny creatures. They wanted to live. Captain Daniel Price entered the medical bay several hours later. He had been on the bridge, coordinating the investigation of the alien ship and planning their next moves. Now he needed to make a decision that would affect everyone. "How are they?" he asked Helen. "Stable for now," she replied, washing her hands. "But that could change quickly. I don't know enough about their biology to predict anything. They need constant monitoring, specialized food, and careful environmental controls." Daniel looked through the isolation chamber window at the sleeping cubs. They looked so peaceful now, curled together like puppies. "What are our options?" Helen dried her hands and faced him directly. We can try to keep them alive and healthy, which will require significant resources, or we can make them comfortable and document what happens. Those are the only choices I see. You mean let them die? Daniel said quietly. I mean accept that we might not be able to save them, Helen corrected gently. Daniel, these creatures could have dietary needs we can't meet. They might require specific nutrients we don't have. Keeping them alive could drain our medical supplies and endanger the crew if something goes wrong. Daniel knew she was right. The practical, logical choice was clear, but he couldn't stop thinking about those big, intelligent eyes. Those cubs understood fear and hope. They had survived when they should have died clinging to life in that frozen cargo hold. I want to try, he said finally. We save them if we can. Helen nodded, having expected this answer. Then I'll need help. Ben can assist me medically, but we'll need engineering support to modify systems, and we'll need approval to use extra rations. You'll have whatever you need, Daniel promised. The real trouble started at the senior staff meeting that afternoon. Daniel had called together his department heads to explain the situation. They gathered in the conference room, tired from the long day but alert. Lieutenant Kyle Morris, the first officer, was a thin man with sharp features and sharper eyes. He listened to Daniel's explanation with growing concern. When the captain finished, Kyle didn't hesitate. Sir, with all respect, this is a mistake. Daniel had expected this. Kyle was brilliant and dedicated, but he thought in terms of efficiency and mission parameters. Explain your reasoning. These creatures are unknowns, Kyle said, ticking points off on his fingers. Unknown biology, unknown needs, unknown behavior as they grow. We're an exploration vessel, not a rescue ship or a zoo. Our mission is to map this sector and return home. These cubs will consume resources meant for the crew. Medical supplies, food, power, and for what? We don't even know if they can survive or what they'll become. Jake Sullivan, who had been quiet until now, spoke up. They're children, Kyle, someone's children. The adults died protecting them. That's emotional thinking, Kyle countered. I sympathize, I do. But we have to think practically. What happens when we run low on medical supplies and a crew member needs treatment? What happens if these creatures grow into something dangerous? Amy Brooks had been listening carefully. She usually stayed quiet during these debates, but now she spoke. We're explorers. We went into space to find new life and understand it. Well, here it is. 3 living, breathing examples of an unknown species. Isn't that exactly what we're supposed to be studying? There's a difference between study and adoption, Kyle argued. We can document them, collect samples, learn what we can. But committing our resources to keeping them alive long-term, that's beyond our mission scope. Lisa Hayes, the engineering chief, had been reviewing notes on her tablet. She was a practical woman who usually sided with efficiency, but now she surprised everyone. I can modify environmental controls without affecting ship operations. The power draw would be minimal. As for resources, we're carrying surplus rations. We planned for a 6-month mission, but we're only 3 months in. We have room in the budget. Kyle looked frustrated. That's not the point. The point is priority. Our priority should be the crew and the mission, not alien animals we know nothing about. They're not animals, Helen said quietly. I've been watching them. The way they interact, the way they look at us. There's intelligence there. Real intelligence. Daniel had let the debate run its course, but now he made his decision clear. We're going to try to save them. That's final. Lisa, work with Helen on environmental needs. Amy, I want you to review all data from the alien ship. Maybe we can learn something about these cub species. Jake, increase security protocols. We don't know who attacked that ship, and they might still be around. And me, sir? Kyle asked, his voice tight. I need you to plan resource allocation, Daniel said. Make sure we can support the cubs without compromising crew safety. I trust you to find the balance. Kyle stood, his face unreadable. Yes, sir. He left the room without another word. After the others had gone, Jake remained behind. You know this won't be easy. I know, Daniel agreed. But it's the right thing to do. Kyle has a point about the risks, Jake continued. We don't know what we're dealing with. Daniel looked out the viewport at the stars beyond. When I was young, maybe 20 years old, I was hiking in the mountains. Found a dog that had been hit by a car and left to die. It was in bad shape, barely alive. My friend said we should leave it, that it was probably going to die anyway. But I couldn't do that. I carried that dog 5 miles to the nearest vet. Did it survive? Jake asked. Daniel smiled. Lived another 12 years. Best friend I ever had. He turned to face Jake. Maybe these cubs won't make it. Maybe Kyle's right about the risks. But I'd rather try and fail than not try at all. That's what separates us from the people who attacked that ship and left these babies to freeze. Jake nodded slowly. The crew will follow you. Most of them, anyway. But you should know that Kyle's not the only one with concerns. I know, Daniel said. But they'll understand eventually. Or they won't. Either way, we're doing this. That night, Daniel visited the medical bay before sleep. The cubs were awake, huddled together but more alert. Their stripes glowed brighter now, pulsing in complex patterns. The blue one noticed him and made a soft chirping sound. Helen was there, recording observations. They're communicating, she said. Watch the light patterns. They're not random. Daniel watched as the orange cub's stripes flashed in a specific sequence. The green cub responded with a different pattern. Then the blue one added its own lights to the conversation. They're talking to each other. Daniel breathed. Or something like it. Helen agreed. This is more than just animal behavior. This is language. The cubs turned to look at the humans, their large eyes reflecting the medical bay lights. For a moment, Daniel felt a connection, a sense of understanding that crossed species boundaries. These weren't just creatures to be saved. They were people in their own way. People who had lost everything and were trying to survive in a strange, frightening world. We made the right choice, Helen said softly. Daniel hoped she was right. 3 weeks had passed since the rescue, and the cubs were thriving. Helen could hardly believe the transformation. They had gone from barely alive to active and curious. They were growing quickly, too, now roughly the size of medium dogs. Their bioluminescent stripes had become brilliant, lighting up the medical bay with colorful displays. Amy had named them based on their stripe colors. Spark was the orange-red one, the largest and most protective of the group. Ember glowed green and was endlessly curious about everything mechanical. Glow, the smallest with blue stripes, was gentle and seemed fascinated by medical equipment. The cubs had distinct personalities that emerged more each day. Spark watched everything with careful attention, always positioning himself between his siblings and anything new. Ember couldn't resist touching and examining every object in reach, her 6 legs carrying her quickly around the room. Glow was quieter, more observant but incredibly affectionate with the humans who cared for her. Lieutenant Peter Grant had become their most frequent visitor besides the medical staff. Peter was the ship's linguist and cultural specialist, a thin man with glasses who spoke 7 Earth languages fluently. He was convinced the cubs were trying to communicate, and he was determined to understand them. Look at this, Peter said to Helen one morning, showing her his tablet. I've been recording their light patterns for 2 weeks. There are definite repetitions. Specific patterns appear in specific contexts. Helen watched the video he had compiled. When the cubs wanted food, their stripes flashed in one particular sequence. When they were happy, another pattern. Fear triggered a rapid, chaotic display. Contentment showed as slow, gentle pulses. It's a language, Peter said excitedly. Not just emotional displays. Actual communication. Watch this part. He showed Helen a clip from yesterday. Spark's stripes had flashed a complex pattern. Ember and Glow both responded with similar but slightly different patterns. Then all 3 had moved to the door at exactly the same time. They were coordinating, Helen said, understanding, planning together. Exactly, Peter agreed. They're not just intelligent. They're working together, sharing information, making group decisions. This is sophisticated cognition. The cubs had also shown remarkable learning ability. They understood basic commands now. Sit, stay, come. They recognized their names and the names of crew members who visited regularly. Spark had even learned to open the medical bay's lower cabinets, though Helen had quickly installed locks after finding him investigating the supplies. But the most surprising discovery came when Ember touched the medical bay's computer terminal. The screen had flickered, then filled with random data. Helen had assumed it was a malfunction until it happened again, and again, always when Ember touched the screen. She's interfacing with it, Peter had realized. Her bioluminescence isn't just light, it's electromagnetic energy. She can actually communicate with electronic systems. They tested this theory carefully. Lisa Hayes brought a simple control panel to the medical bay. Ember approached it curiously, sniffing and examining it. Then she placed one paw on the screen. Her stripes pulsed and the panel responded, activating and displaying information. Incredible, Lisa breathed. She's not hacking it. She's talking to it. The system recognizes her signals as valid input. This discovery changed everything. If the cubs could interface with computers, they might be able to communicate more clearly. Peter and Lisa worked together to create a simple translation program. They loaded it with the light patterns Peter had documented and linked it to the ship's computer. The first real conversation happened on a quiet evening in the 4th week. Peter sat with all 3 cubs, the translation program running on a large screen. He had been patient, showing them pictures and recording their responses, slowly building a vocabulary. Spark watched the screen intently. His stripes began to pulse in a deliberate pattern. The program analyzed the signals and displayed text. Where family? Peter's heart skipped. He chose his words carefully, knowing this would be difficult. Your family is gone. They died protecting you. The cub's stripes flashed in unison, a pattern Peter had labeled as sadness. Glow made a soft keening sound. Ember pressed close to her siblings. We safe? Spark's pattern asked. Yes, Peter said, his voice thick with emotion. You're safe. We'll protect you. Why? This pattern came from Ember, curious and uncertain. Peter thought about how to answer that. Why had they saved the cubs? Why were they using resources and taking risks for alien children? Because it's the right thing to do. Because you needed help, and we could give it. The cub's stripes pulsed in a pattern the program couldn't translate yet, but Peter sensed it was something like gratitude or relief. News of the successful communication spread quickly through the ship. Crew members who had been uncertain about the cubs now wanted to visit them. Even Kyle Morris, still skeptical about the whole situation, admitted the discovery was scientifically significant. Daniel visited the medical bay that same evening. The cubs recognized him now, their stripes brightening when he entered. Spark approached and sat in front of him, the way Jake had taught him. Captain, Peter said, gesturing to the translation screen. They want to talk to you. Daniel knelt down to be at Spark's eye level. Hello, Spark. The cub's stripes pulsed. The screen read, You leader? Yes, I'm the captain. The leader. You choose save us? Yes, Daniel said simply. Spark's next pattern was longer, more complex. The program struggled to translate it, finally displaying, Why choose save? We not your people, not your species. Why risk for us? It was the same question Peter had faced, but coming from Spark, it carried more weight. Daniel considered his answer carefully. These cubs had lost everything. They deserved the truth, not comfortable lies. Because you're children, Daniel said. Because you were alone and scared and needed help. Because the people I work for, the country I come from, we believe in helping those who need it. Even when it's hard. Even when it costs us something. Not all people think this way, Spark's pattern said. Bad people killed our family, hurt our ship, left us to die. I know, Daniel said gently. Not everyone is good. Not everyone cares about others. But that doesn't mean we should stop caring. The 3 cubs moved closer together, their stripes pulsing in synchronization. The pattern was long and complicated, and the translation program worked for several seconds before displaying the message. We are orphans now. We have no home, no family, no place in the world. What happens to us? Daniel felt the weight of that question. What would happen to them? They couldn't return the cubs to their people because they didn't know where their people were. The derelict ship had contained no navigation data that survived. The cubs were too young to remember their homeworld's location. You'll stay with us, Daniel said, for as long as you need to. We'll take care of you. Forever? Glow's pattern asked. Her first contribution to the conversation. Daniel looked at the 3 small faces watching him with such trust and hope. He thought about Kyle's concerns and the practical difficulties ahead. He thought about the mission and the regulations and all the logical reasons this was complicated. Then he thought about the right thing to do. Yes, he said, forever if that's what you want. The cub's stripes exploded with light, pulsing in patterns of joy and relief. They moved forward together, pressing against Daniel in what could only be called a hug. He wrapped his arms around them, feeling their warmth and the gentle vibration of their purring. Helen wiped her eyes, not bothering to hide her tears. Peter grinned widely. Even Lisa, practical and reserved, smiled. That night, Daniel filed an official report to Earth Command. He explained the situation honestly, including the cubs' intelligence and communication abilities. He requested permission to keep them aboard as wards of the crew and to bring them back to Earth. He knew the response would take weeks to arrive due to the distance. He knew there would be questions and concerns and possibly orders to do something different. But he had made his choice and he would stand by it. The Cubs were part of his crew now, part of his family, and Daniel Price didn't abandon family. Meanwhile, Jake had been studying the data from the alien ship. What he found was disturbing. The attacking vessel had used military-grade weapons and professional tactics. This wasn't random piracy. It was a targeted strike, efficient and brutal. Someone wanted that ship, Jake told Daniel privately, or they wanted what was on it. The Cubs? Daniel asked. Maybe. Or the technology. That organic crystal hybrid design is unlike anything we've seen. It could be worth billions to the right buyer. Daniel felt a chill. Are we in danger? Unknown, Jake admitted. But we should stay alert. Whoever attacked that ship might still be in the area, and if they find out we rescued the Cubs, they might come for us. Daniel looked through the window at the stars. Somewhere out there, dangerous people were hunting, and 3 innocent Cubs had just become part of his crew. He had made his choice. Now he would have to protect it. 2 months had passed since the rescue, and the Cubs had become true members of the crew. They were nearly as large as adult humans now, their growth rapid and steady. Helen estimated they would reach full size within another few months. But size wasn't the only thing that had changed. Spark had taken to following Jake Sullivan everywhere. The big Cub watched security drills with intense focus, memorizing patrol routes and defensive positions. Jake had started including him in training exercises as a joke, but Spark proved surprisingly capable. He understood tactics instinctively, often spotting vulnerabilities in defensive setups that took humans hours to notice. One afternoon, Jake was running the security team through a boarding scenario. 2 teams would compete to secure a mock ship interior, using practice weapons and strategy. Spark sat watching from the observation area, his orange stripes pulsing thoughtfully. Want to try? Jake asked, half serious. Spark's response came through the translator immediately. Yes, I help Blue Team. The security officers laughed, but Jake was curious. All right. Blue Team, you've got Spark. Red Team, standard formation, go. What happened next surprised everyone. Spark didn't rush in or act randomly. He moved with Blue Team, staying low and using cover. But more than that, he coordinated them. His bioluminescent stripes flashed signals to the team members, who quickly learned to read them. Move left, wait, go now. Blue Team won in record time. Spark had guided them through an attack pattern that avoided every defensive position Red Team had set up. When Jake reviewed the security footage, he realized the Cub had been analyzing the drill arena while watching, mapping every possible approach and counter-strategy. He's a natural tactical thinker, Jake reported to Daniel later. Better than most officers I've trained. And he's only a few months old. Ember had found her place in engineering. Lisa Hayes initially tried to keep the curious Cub away from sensitive systems, but Ember proved too valuable to exclude. She could interface with computer systems in ways humans couldn't, diagnosing problems by literally feeling the flow of energy through circuits. When a power coupling failed in Section 7, Lisa spent 2 hours trying to locate the fault. Ember watched for a few minutes, then placed her paw on the main panel. Her green stripes pulsed as she communicated with the ship's systems, following the power flow through a maze of connections. Then she walked directly to a wall panel, sat down and waited. Check behind that panel, Ember's translated message said. Lisa opened it and found a corroded wire that hadn't shown up on any diagnostic scan. The damage was microscopic but growing, and it would have caused a serious failure within days. After that, Ember became Lisa's unofficial assistant. She spent hours in engineering, learning systems and helping with repairs. Lisa taught her to be careful, to always ask before touching anything, and Ember proved to be a dedicated student. Glow had bonded most strongly with Helen. The blue-striped Cub showed an intuitive understanding of medicine that amazed the doctor. Glow watched every procedure, learned the name and purpose of every tool, and seemed to sense when patients were in distress. Ben Harris developed a respiratory infection, nothing serious but uncomfortable. He came to Medical Bay for treatment, trying to downplay his discomfort. Helen was examining him when Glow approached, her stripes pulsing gently. He hurts here, her translation said, indicating Ben's left lung. Inflammation, Fluid building. Helen scanned the area Glow had indicated and found a small amount of fluid accumulation that wasn't visible yet on external examination.
How did you know?
Glow's response was complex. Something about sensing heat patterns and hearing subtle differences in breathing. She experienced the world in ways humans couldn't, picking up signals that technology might miss. "You're going to make a remarkable doctor someday," Helen said, stroking Glow's head gently. The Cub's integration wasn't without problems. Some crew members remained uncomfortable around them, unsure how to interact with beings that were part animal, part person, part technology. The Cubs were other in ways that made some humans nervous. Kyle Morris had warmed to them slightly but still maintained professional distance. He acknowledged their value but worried about long-term implications. What would happen when they reached Earth? Would the Cubs be treated as crew members or specimens? Would they have rights or be property? These questions troubled Daniel too, but he pushed them aside for now. The immediate concern was keeping everyone safe and getting home successfully. That concern became urgent when Amy picked up a new signal. It was early morning, ship time, when she called Daniel to the bridge with unusual tension in her voice. "Sir, we have a problem," she said, displaying data on the main screen. "There's a ship following us. It's been matching our course for the last 6 hours, staying just out of visual range." Jake was already at tactical running analysis. "It's big. Military configuration, heavily armed, not broadcasting any identification." Daniel's stomach tightened. "Could be coincidence." "Could be," Jake agreed. "But they've adjusted course every time we have. They're definitely tracking us." Peter Grant had been working with the Cubs on the bridge, teaching them about navigation. Spark noticed the tension and approached Daniel, his stripes pulsing a question. "Danger?" "Maybe," Daniel admitted. He had learned that the Cubs responded better to honesty than false comfort. "There's another ship following us. We don't know if they're friendly." All 3 Cubs moved to the tactical station, looking at the sensor readings. Ember placed her paw on the console, interfacing with the ship's systems. Her stripes pulsed rapidly as she processed information faster than any human could read it. "Same signature as attackers," her translation said. "Same weapon types. Same engine pattern. They found us." The bridge went silent. These were the people who had destroyed the Cubs' birth ship, who had slaughtered their family, and somehow they had tracked the horizon's edge across light years of space. "How is that possible?" Lisa asked, having arrived on the bridge. "We left no trail. No beacon, no identifying signals." Ember's stripes flashed again. "They tracked Cubs. Our biology emits specific radiation, very faint but detectable with right equipment. They know what to look for. Can we block the signal?" Daniel asked. "No," Ember answered. "It is part of us. Like heartbeat. Cannot stop without stopping life." Jake studied the tactical readout. "They're faster than us. Better armed too. If they want to fight, we'll lose." "They want Cubs," Sparks' pattern said firmly. "They want to take us, sell us, use us." Daniel made a decision. "We run, Lisa. I need maximum speed." "Amy, send a distress call toward the nearest outpost. Maybe someone will hear it." "Captain," Kyle spoke up, his face grim. "We need to consider alternatives." "What alternatives?" Daniel demanded. Kyle hesitated, then said what others were thinking but wouldn't voice. "We could put the Cubs in a shuttle, set it to autopilot away from us. The raiders would follow them and we could escape." The bridge froze. 3 pairs of large, intelligent eyes turned to Kyle. Sparks' stripes pulsed in what the translation program identified as betrayal and hurt. "You would trade us for your safety," Sparks' message said. It wasn't a question. Daniel stood, his voice cold and hard. "That's not happening. They're crew. We don't sacrifice crew." "Sir, be reasonable," Kyle pressed. 3 lives against 20. "It's basic mathematics." "It's not mathematics," Daniel said. "It's morality. We saved them. We promised to protect them. That promise doesn't change when things get difficult." Amy spoke up, her voice quiet but firm. "The captain's right. We don't abandon them." "Agreed," Jake added. "We fight or run together." One by one, the bridge crew voiced their support. Even those who had been uncertain about the Cubs stood with them now. They were family, strange and unusual, but family nonetheless. Kyle looked around, seeing he was alone in his position. "I hope you're right, sir. I hope this doesn't get us all killed." The Cubs had been watching and listening. Now Glow approached Daniel, her blue stripes pulsing gently. "You choose protect us again, even when dangerous." Always, Daniel said simply. Spark's pattern flashed with determination. Then we help protect you. We fight together. You're children, Helen protested, having arrived on the bridge. You shouldn't have to fight. We are not helpless children, Spark responded. We are Luminari. Our people fought. Died fighting. We honor them by fighting too. Ember moved to the engineering console, interfacing with ship systems. I can improve shields. Redirect power. Make us stronger. Glow's pattern added. I can help with injuries. Keep crew healthy for fight. Spark looked at Jake. You teach me tactics. Now we use them. Daniel looked at his crew, human and luminary together. They were outgunned and outnumbered. The smart play was probably to surrender, to negotiate. But that wasn't who they were. That wasn't what they stood for. All right, he said. We fight together. Lisa, Jake, work with Ember and Spark. Find every advantage we can. Helen, Glow, prepare medical bay for casualties. Amy, keep trying to reach help. Everyone else, battle stations. The raider ship was getting closer, confident in its superiority. They expected an easy victory. A helpless exploration vessel with no real defenses. They were about to learn what humans did when you threatened their family. The horizon's edge prepared for battle. The raider ship closed the distance steadily, its dark hull bristling with weapons. On the bridge of the horizon's edge, tension filled the air like electricity. Every crew member was at their station, ready but afraid. They were explorers, not soldiers. Most had never seen real combat. Ember worked at the engineering console, her green stripes pulsing rapidly as she interfaced with ship systems. Lisa stood beside her, implementing the changes Ember suggested. Together, they had rerouted power in ways the ship's designers never intended. Shields at 130%, Lisa reported, amazed. I didn't know we could push them that high. Normal thinking says no, Ember's translation explained. But energy wants to flow. I help it flow better, stronger. Jake and Spark were at tactical planning defensive strategies. The Cub's stripes flashed patterns that Jake had learned to read even without the translator. Attack patterns, defensive positions, timing strategies. Spark understood combat in ways that seemed instinctive. They'll expect us to run, Jake said, studying the raiders' approach. Standard prey behavior. We should do something unexpected. Spark's pattern flashed agreement. Face them. Show strength. Make them uncertain. Daniel listened to his tactical officer and the young Luminari planning together. It felt surreal, but it also felt right. What do you suggest? Turn toward them, Spark said. Accelerate. Make them think we want to fight. Then, at last moment, hard turn and run past them. Confuses their weapons. Buys time. It's risky, Jake admitted. But it might work. They're confident. Arrogant. They won't expect aggression from an exploration ship. Do it, Daniel ordered. Helm, come about. Point us right at them. The horizon's edge turned, its engines flaring as it accelerated toward the raider. On the enemy ship, Daniel imagined confusion and surprise. Why would prey charge a predator? Amy's console beeped urgently. They're hailing us, sir. On screen, Daniel said, standing straight and calm. The face that appeared was humanoid, but clearly not human. Gray skin, 4 eyes arranged in a square pattern, a mouth full of sharp teeth. The creature wore military-style armor and smiled with cruel amusement. Human vessel, the raider captain said, his voice translated by the computer. You have something that belongs to us. 3 luminary cubs. Surrender them and we'll let you live. They don't belong to you, Daniel replied calmly. They're under our protection. The raider laughed, a harsh sound. Protection? You're an exploration ship. No weapons worth mentioning. No military training. You can't protect anything from us. Try us, Daniel said simply. The raider's smile faded. Your bravery is foolish. We've killed for less than what you're carrying. Those cubs are worth millions in the right markets. Their ability to interface with technology makes them extremely valuable. Walk away now or we'll take them from your corpses. Spark had been listening. Now his stripes flashed a message directly to the raider ship's systems. Ember helping to boost the signal. The translator converted it. You killed my family, destroyed my home, left us to die. Now you want to sell us like property. We will never surrender. And these humans will never give up. The raider captain's eyes widened, surprised the cubs could communicate so clearly. Ah, they've learned to talk. Even better. Trained Luminari cubs are worth twice as much. Last chance, humans. Give them up. Daniel cut the transmission. Helm, execute Spark's maneuver, now! The Horizon's Edge dove suddenly, its enhanced engines pushing past safety limits. The raider ship fired, but their weapons targeted where the exploration vessel should have been. Energy beams sliced through empty space as the Horizon's Edge swept past, its shields flaring from the near misses. Hard turn. Full speed, Daniel commanded. The ship twisted, racing away at an angle the raiders didn't expect. It bought them distance, but not enough. The raider ship was still faster, still more powerful. It came about quickly, pursuing with renewed aggression. They're charging weapons, Jake reported. Full spread. They're not playing anymore. Ember, can you do anything about their weapons? Daniel asked. The green-striped Cub's response was immediate. Maybe, need to get closer. Need physical contact with their systems. That's impossible, Kyle objected. We can't get close enough without being destroyed. Glow had been quiet, helping Helen prepare medical bay. But now her blue stripes pulsed with an idea. Not impossible. Cubs can survive vacuum for short time. If we get close, we transfer to their ship. Disable systems from inside. Absolutely not, Helen said immediately. You're children. I won't let you risk yourselves like that. We already at risk, Spark pointed out. Everyone at risk. This way we control risk. Use our advantages. Daniel hated the idea, but he saw the logic. The Cubs could do things humans couldn't. They were smaller, faster, and could interface with alien technology, but sending them into danger felt wrong. There has to be another way, he said. Amy spoke up from communications. Sir, I'm picking up multiple ships approaching. They're responding to our distress call. Hope flared briefly, then Jake crushed it. They're 40 minutes out. We don't have 40 minutes. We have maybe 5 before that raider tears us apart. Another volley of weapons fire struck their shields. The ship shuddered and warning alarms blared. Lisa's console showed shield strength dropping rapidly. Shields at 70%, she called out. Another hit like that and we're in serious trouble. Daniel made the hardest decision of his life. Spark, Glow, Ember. If you're sure about this, we'll try it. But you follow Jake's orders exactly. No risks beyond what's necessary. Understood? All 3 Cubs' stripes pulsed agreement. They had been preparing for this moment, knowing it might come. They moved quickly to the airlock where Jake had assembled emergency space gear modified for their unusual physiology. The plan was desperate, but simple. The Horizon's Edge would make a close pass of the raider ship. The Cubs would launch in emergency pods using minimal thrust to cross the small gap. Once attached to the raider's hull, they would find an access port and enter the ship. Ember disables weapons and engines. Jake briefed quickly. Glow, you handle life support. Make them uncomfortable, but don't kill anyone. Spark, your security. Keep your siblings safe. You have 20 minutes. After that, we extract you or we run. Clear? The Cubs indicated understanding. Despite their intelligence and capabilities, they looked small in the modified spacesuits. Too young for what they were about to attempt. Helen checked each suit carefully, her hands shaking slightly. You come back to us, she told them. That's an order. Glow nuzzled her gently. We come back, promise. The Horizon's Edge made its run, racing toward the raider ship in what looked like a suicidal charge. The raider fired, confident this would end the chase. But Ember had been preparing, boosting shields at the last second with everything she had. The ship shuddered but held. They swept past the raider's flank so close that collision alarms screamed. 3 small pods launched, arcing across the gap on minimal thrust. The raider's sensors, focused on the larger ship, missed them entirely. The pods attached to the hull with magnetic clamps. 3 small figures in modified suits emerged, moving carefully across the alien ship's surface. They found an access port exactly where Ember's scanning had suggested. On the Horizon's Edge, everyone watched through the suit cameras, seeing what the Cubs saw. The access port required a security code, but Ember simply placed her suited paw against it. Her bioluminescence flashed, talking to the system in its own language. The port opened. Inside the raider ship, chaos erupted. Alarms blared as the security system detected intruders. Armed raiders rushed toward the access point, weapons ready. But Spark was ready too. He had learned from Jake, studied tactics and strategy. The raiders expected adults, expected threats they understood. They didn't expect a Cub who moved like water, using his 6 legs and small size to avoid fire and strike from unexpected angles. Spark didn't kill. Jake had been clear about that. But he disabled, striking pressure points and joints with precision. Raiders fell, confused and hurting, but alive. Ember reached the engine room with Glow protecting her. She interfaced with the main systems, her green stripes pulsing rapidly as she communicated with the Raider ship's computer. The ship's engines began to shut down, power flowing in directions it shouldn't. Glow found environmental controls and made careful adjustments. Oxygen levels dropped slightly. Temperature rose uncomfortably. Nothing dangerous, but enough to make the Raiders sluggish and distracted. Weapons disabled, Ember's message came through. Engines offline. Ship dead in space. On the horizon's edge, the crew cheered. The Raider vessel was drifting, powerless and harmless, but the Cub still needed extraction. Get to the extraction point, Jake ordered. Double time. The Cubs moved back through the ship, but they had been discovered now. More Raiders blocked their path, angry and determined. Spark fought them off, but there were too many. They were being surrounded. Then something unexpected happened. The other ships that had responded to the distress call arrived early, having pushed their engines beyond safe limits. 3 patrol vessels from the Galactic Security Force dropped into normal space, weapons charged and ready. The Raider captain, seeing his ship disabled and outgunned, made the only choice he could. Ceasefire, he ordered his crew. We surrender. The Cubs made it back to the horizon's edge safely, exhausted but unhurt. The Galactic Council chamber was enormous, a vast circular room with representatives from hundreds of worlds. Daniel had never seen so many different species in one place. Some were humanoid, others completely alien. There were beings made of crystal, creatures that floated in containment fields, and things that defied easy description. He stood in the center with his senior crew, Jake, Helen, Amy, Lisa, and Peter. The Cubs sat beside them, calm despite the attention of thousands of eyes and sensors. They had grown even larger in the months since the Raider incident, now the size of adult humans. But they were still young, still learning. The Speaker of the Council was a tall being with silver skin and 3 sets of arms. She called the session to order with a gesture that somehow commanded instant silence. We gathered to discuss the incident involving the human vessel. Horizon's Edge and 3 luminary Cubs, the speaker said. Her voice translated into hundreds of languages simultaneously. Captain Daniel Price, you stand accused of interfering with luminary affairs by taking custody of these young ones without authorization. Daniel had expected this. The Luminary Collective had been grateful for the rescue, but also concerned about humans taking their children. It was a delicate political situation. With respect, Daniel said, his voice steady. We found them dying on a destroyed ship. We saved their lives. We didn't interfere, we rescued. A Luminary representative stood, a massive being with golden fur and bioluminescent stripes that pulsed deep purple. She was Elder Kara, one of the Luminary Council leaders. Daniel had met her briefly before this session. Captain Price speaks truth, Kara said. His crew found our lost children and saved them when death was certain. For this we are grateful beyond words. However, the matter is complex. These Cubs have bonded with humans, learned human ways, and become integrated into human society. They are Luminari by birth, but what are they now? Spark stood, his orange stripes pulsing respectfully. Permission to speak? The council speaker gestured approval. The Luminary youth may address the council. Spark moved to the center, standing beside Daniel. His stripes pulsed in patterns that the translation systems converted to speech. I am Spark. These are my siblings, Ember and Glow. We are Luminari, yes. But we are also more now. We have lived with humans, learned from them, fought beside them. They are our family. A reptilian delegate hissed a question. Do you reject your birth species? No, Spark replied firmly. We honor our birth parents who died protecting us. We honor the Luminary Collective, our people, but we also honor the humans who gave us life when we had none, who chose us when abandoning us would have been easier. Ember stood, her green stripes adding to the conversation. Humans teach us that family is not only blood. Family is choice. They chose us. We choose them. Both can be true. Glow joined her siblings, blue stripes pulsing gently. Elder Kara says we are Luminari by birth, true. But we are also children of the horizon's edge. Children of Captain Price, Dr. Carter, Commander Sullivan, and all the crew. We are bridge between two peoples. The council chamber erupted in discussion. Some delegates argued that the Cubs should return to Luminari space immediately. Others suggested they were too integrated with humans to separate them now. Still others saw opportunity in the situation. A human delegate from Earth's government stood. Daniel didn't know him, but the man wore the uniform of a high-ranking official. The Earth Alliance proposes a formal arrangement, the official said. Let these 3 Luminari remain with the Horizon's Edge crew as ambassadors. They can learn both human and Luminari ways, serving as bridges between our peoples. Elder Kara considered this. The Luminari Collective would agree with conditions. The Cubs must spend time among our people, learning their heritage. They must maintain connection to Luminari culture. And they must have the right to choose their permanent home when they reach adulthood. How long until they're adults? The speaker asked. By Luminari standards, approximately 2 more years, Kara answered. By then they will be fully grown and capable of making their own choices. The speaker looked at the Cubs. Do you accept these terms? You will divide your time between human and Luminari spaces, learning both cultures. When you are adults, you will choose where you belong permanently. The 3 Cubs conferred silently, their stripes pulsing in complex patterns. Then Spark answered for all of them. We accept. We want to know our people, our history, but we will not abandon our human family. We do both, the vote was called. When it concluded, the arrangement was approved by a significant majority. The Cubs would remain with the Horizon's Edge for half of each year, spending the other half with Luminari teachers and families. They would learn to be both Luminari and citizens of a wider galaxy that included humans. After the session, Elder Kyra approached Daniel privately. They stood in a small observation room overlooking the council chambers, watching delegates file out. You did a remarkable thing, Captain, Kyra said, her deep purple stripes pulsing with emotion. Most species would have left our children to die or kept them as curiosities. You treated them as people. They are people, Daniel said simply. Strange and different, but people nonetheless. Kyra's laugh was a rumbling purr. Yes, but not everyone sees this truth. Many beings in the galaxy view others as tools, resources, or threats. You saw children who needed help. That is rare. I just did what was right, Daniel protested. Exactly, Kyra agreed. And that is why our peoples will work well together. Humans have much to learn. Your technology is still developing. Your understanding of the galaxy limited. But you have something many older civilizations have lost. What's that? Daniel asked. Compassion, Kyra said. The ability to see suffering and choose to ease it, even at cost to yourselves. That is worth more than any technology. Over the following months, the Cubs split their time as agreed. When they were with the Luminari, they learned their species' history, culture, and abilities. They discovered they could do things even their teachers found remarkable, their unique upbringing giving them perspectives other Luminari lacked. When they returned to the Horizon's Edge, they brought new knowledge and skills. Ember learned advanced energy manipulation from Luminari engineers, techniques she shared with Lisa. Spark studied Luminari military history and tactics, expanding Jake's understanding of strategy. Glow learned Luminari healing arts, combining them with human medicine in ways that benefited both species. The crew adapted too. They learned Luminari customs, tried Luminari food, and studied the bioluminescent language. Amy became particularly skilled at reading the light patterns, sometimes understanding what the Cubs meant before the translator finished. Peter Grant documented everything, creating the first comprehensive guide to Luminari-human interaction. His work would become required reading for diplomats and explorers throughout human space. Helen watched the Cubs grow with a mixture of pride and sadness. They were her patients, her students, and in many ways, her children. But they were becoming adults, finding their own paths. Soon they would make their final choice about where they belonged. That choice came 2 years after the council meeting. The Cubs were fully grown now, magnificent beings that combined power, intelligence, and grace. They had learned everything both cultures could teach them. They had become true citizens of 2 worlds. The crew gathered in the common room when the Cubs asked for a meeting. Everyone was there, even Kyle, who had become one of their staunchest supporters over time. The Cubs stood together, their stripes pulsing in harmony. We have reached adulthood, Spark began. By Luminari law, we must now choose our permanent home, where we will live, what work we will do, what path we will follow. The crew waited silently, hearts heavy. They knew the Cubs might choose to return to their people permanently. It would hurt, but they would understand. The Luminari Collective offers us honor, Ember continued. Positions of importance, comfortable lives, respect among our people. It is generous and tempting. Glow's blue stripes pulsed with emotion. But we have considered carefully. We have consulted with elders, with teachers, with family, both luminary and human. We have searched our hearts. Spark's orange stripes flared brightly. We choose to serve as ambassadors, permanent representatives of the luminary collective to human space and human culture, to our people. We choose to remain with the horizon's edge, with this crew, with our family. The room exploded with joy. Helen hugged Glow, tears streaming freely. Lisa and Ember performed a victory dance that would have looked ridiculous if it hadn't been so genuine. Jake and Spark bumped fists, a gesture the cub had learned and loved. Daniel felt relief wash over him. He had tried to prepare for losing them, but it would have torn his heart out. "You're sure?" he asked. "This is what you truly want?" All three cubs surrounded him, their stripes pulsing in perfect synchronization. "We are sure. This is home. You are family. Nothing changes that." The formal announcement came a week later. The cubs would serve as official ambassadors, the first of what everyone hoped would be many such bridges between species. They would have diplomatic status, resources, and authority, but more importantly, they would have purpose. Their work began immediately. Spark helped train joint human luminary security forces, sharing tactics and strategies from both cultures. His natural,